Hello and welcome back. I'm excited to share some information with you about the start of the 2021 school year. As I have said before, it will be a school year like no other, but we are getting there. Teachers are back in their classrooms today, and a week from Monday, we expect to start having kids back in our school buildings. So I wanted to share an update with parents, some information and answer some questions that I hear in the community about what's going on in our schools. I guess I also just want to share with people, I understand that there's some frustration out in the community about unanswered questions. And I know that there are many unanswered questions. And I think, unfortunately, that's the nature of where we are right now in society and with the pandemic. There are just more questions than answers. And I share your frustration. We are continually evolving what's going on in terms of health and in education across our city and state and really the nation. Every day we're getting updated data regarding the health status in our community, and we're getting more information from the Department of Education and the Department of Public Health, which causes us to continually have to update what we're doing and what we're thinking. And we are in negotiations with our teachers union. And I feel like we're nearing a close on that. We have a lot of important decisions made, but we still have some more decisions and some more discussions to have done. So, there are just issues that are sort of outside of our control that we're just trying very sort of calmly to work our way through. And we know that it's hard to be calm sometimes when you're on the receiving end of what seems to be things that keep changing and you don't understand why. So I assure you that we are sharing information as best as we can, as soon as we have it. And I certainly apologize for the frustration that we're absolutely all feeling right now. So that said, what can I tell you? I think I should also share with you, and we're going to share in more detail during this video, information about safety in our schools. That's certainly our utmost priority. We need our staff and our students to be comfortable and have all the safety and sanitation measures in place that are called for, whether it's HVAC or it's hand sanitizing and hand washing or masks or social distancing or all those things. We're working really hard to get those in place and to keep those in place, right, for you all. So we're going to share some information with you about that today. We're going to share information about schedules and about our Remote Learning Academy. We do have a Remote Learning Academy website. It's on a piece of our website. If you look at the drop-down menu where the schools are, there's now a Remote Learning Academy drop-down tag on the drop-down menu that y'all can take a look at some more details of the Remote Learning Academy if you're interested. And then there's some more communication coming out to families from principals. I know they've been sending out communication this week, and there's more detailed communications coming out the beginning of next week regarding teachers and assignments and all that sort of information that I know people really want the nitty-gritty, and people are ready for school to begin, and I appreciate it. I am ready for school to begin as well. We've been planning and planning and planning, and I'm ready to see some children and some happy faces. So with that, I'm going to just sort of move on to the question and answer portion of our video. And thank you all for watching this. As always, we're going to keep updating you at least weekly for the coming weeks, as I know there are many questions in the community. And now it's Mike Pierfeling, Assistant Superintendent, and I just going over some safety and well-being and commonly asked questions in our schools. Mike, welcome back.
Hi, thank you so much for having me back. This has been a crazy summer, so we are ready to roll. This is exciting.
It is exciting. We are exciting. We have our teachers back in our buildings today. And we're really, really getting ramped up and ready for our kids to come back the week after next.
Yeah, I visited two schools this morning, and the staff really upbeat, excited, ready to be there. I think it's a great environment, and they're doing their job. This is great.
Yeah, it is great. And some of our staff are nervous to be in school as well. And they're, rightfully so. This is a pandemic, and we're trying to be very aware of that, and to just offer the utmost in safety and sanitation equipment in our schools to assure that everybody is able to feel comfortable within our schools. Maybe you can start. I know you're become an HVAC expert. So maybe you can share a little information with folks about our HVAC system updates, our air purifiers, all that sort of things that we didn't think about so much before, and now has become a large part of our daily life.
Yeah, it certainly has become a large part of everybody's questions. And just to give you a quick update on what we've done, we did an assessment on all of our buildings as far as air circulation. For COVID, it's all about air circulation and getting fresh air into the buildings and getting exhausted air out of the buildings. So we did an extensive assessment on all of our buildings regarding what's working and what's not working. We spent that took us about a month, and then we spent the last month making repairs. So it's been a long process. We've done a ton of work around this, and to right now we have got the majority of our classroom univent systems. Those are the devices that draw in fresh air from outside. Those are the majority of them are operational. There are a few.
I said the vast majority. It's exciting. Like we have very few at this point that aren't working, and that wasn't the case recently. So
Right, correct. And for those classrooms and spaces that don't have operational univent systems, we have put in air purifiers in those spaces. In addition, we've put air purifying devices in our nurses' stations or nurses' waiting rooms. So that's exciting also that we have some really clean air in those areas. Those are the areas that don't typically have windows. They're normally, although the waiting rooms now do have windows, I think we've moved them. So we're excited about that. It's been a lot of work. I've seen some people say, well, I went to school and I didn't see any air purifier in a classroom. Well, that means that classroom is getting great circulation. It's getting univent circulation in and exhaust air circulation out. So it's doing the HVAC system is operating the way it was intended to do so. So we're excited. It was a long time coming. And I think a lot of this has been neglected for some years, and we're happy to get it back to where it should be going.
Right. So in some of our older schools, and we do have some significantly older schools, they don't have HVAC systems. So they need air scrubbers in every classroom at this point. And then in our many of our other schools, there are HVAC systems. And at this point, the vast majority of them are working, but there's a few with some parts on order or whatnot. And so we put air scrubbers in those classrooms. So that's why one classroom might have an air scrubber and the next classroom wouldn't, because the classroom without one actually has the built-in mechanism that meets the ASHRAE standards, right?
Right. And what's great about our older buildings is they have huge windows. And when we get those opened up and get the fresh air in, that's also a big help also. But we did deploy air scrubbers for every classroom, every office space, cafeteria, gymnasium areas, in all of our older buildings that don't have, designed HVAC systems in them.
Exactly. And those buildings that do have the designed HVAC systems, that the classrooms that don't have the air scrubbers, we've gone through, we've cleaned all the air handling units, and we had to upgrade all the filters, not just change them, right, but assure that they had a COVID level of filter in each of the classrooms in order to meet the ASHRAE standards.
Yep, all filters were changed in the month of August, so everything is fresh, and we'll go through and change the filters again in February. A little less than 6 months out. So, this is something that we're going to get into our preventative maintenance cycle and have it happening every 6 months. So we're excited that some of these things, COVID, while it's so horrible that we're all experiencing it, it's opened our eyes to some things that we need to do better. And I'm excited to say we are doing better.
Yeah, I'm really pleased too. I mean, I think the city's known for a very long time that we had some HVAC system issues in our schools, and it just hadn't risen to the top of the many priorities. So at least I will say that is a plus in all of this, that our schools are improving in that way. Let's talk a little bit about buses. I know that's one of the questions du jour as we get much closer to kids coming to school. Tell us a little bit about buses. And I think I heard North Reading Transportation is going to join us at school committee next Thursday night to share some more information, but I'll ask you some of the basics.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we've been busy with the busing also. Our transportation department, NRT's transportation department, have been working countless hours trying to get everything up to speed and ready for us to return to school. NRT right now is working on our routes, and they should have them ready for us by the end of the weekend. So we're going to take a look at those routes and identify all the students who have been assigned a seat on a bus and start printing bus passes. So we're hopeful that early next week we'll have the routes and we'll have been able to go through them. And then hopefully later next week, at some point next week, we'll be able to publish those routes to our families. And while that's all going on, our transportation staff is going to be printing bus passes. Students will be issued a bus pass this year. It will be a plastic PVC card. It will have a hoop and a loop on it, so you can clip it right to a backpack or to a string bag or whatever you're carrying that day. And I think what's important for families to know is that all students this year are going to be required to have a bus pass to get onto a bus. This is for contact tracing purposes. This is also so that we can maintain safe levels of students on buses. Every student, we will only have one student per seat on every bus. So, that limits us to about 23 to 25 students per bus, depending on the size of the bus. So it's critical for us to issue these bus passes, and it's critical that the student have one in order to board the bus. So we will be distributing the bus passes out to the school locations, hopefully later next week. That's our intention. And the building administration will reach out to all families and let them know that the bus passes for students will be ready or are ready in their schools to be picked up. We do stress that there are walk zones in Haverhill, and students within those walk zones will not be issued bus passes. So please have that understanding. I know that that's going to upset some people, and we'll do our best to meet all the families' needs. Unfortunately, there's just not enough spaces on all of our buses with the COVID rules on how we can transport students who are in walk zones.
Absolutely. And Mike, I know parents or some people at home are saying, wow, why wasn't this done earlier? And that's a comment we hear a lot, but I don't think people realize just how complex it is as we virtually recreate school here. We needed to determine, needed to get parents' input on if they wanted their children to go remote or in person, and that has busing implications. And then for the in-person people, we needed to determine who is going on Monday and Tuesday and who is going on Thursday and Friday, and that has busing implications. And then we need to look at our routes and assure that we have the right number of students on the buses for social distancing. And so there's just kind of layer upon layer of things that has to happen, and those things all kind of fall like dominoes. Like one can't happen before the other. So we are, just at that point now with, a September 1 deadline for families to let us know whether they wanted remote or in person has just brought us here. I feel confident it's going to be fine, and we're gonna get this done. And people just need to understand that it's just sort of a progression, and it's all being worked on. And there's a lot of good people working on it right now.
Yeah, and I give a lot of kudos to our staff and NRT staff who have been, like I said, countless hours and changing, making modifications as needed. It's been a great team effort. I will also add, we need when we issue a bus pass, they will have the bus number on it, and that is the only bus your child will be allowed to ride. Again, because of numbers and the level of seats that we have available on every bus. So just be aware that if your child's on a bus and they're on bus 22, that is their bus morning and afternoon. I know sometimes students like to go to a friend's house or need to go or would like to go over and visit a family member in a different neighborhood. That's not going to be possible again this year, just because of the fact that we don't have the space on our buses to accommodate all students. And we're taking advantage of every spot we have on the bus. Every student outside of a walk zone will have a bus pass issued to them if they're in cohort A or B or C. Meaning they're going Monday or Tuesday or Thursday, Friday, or all 4 days. Their bus pass will indicate which days they're capable to ride, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. And that will let the driver know that the kid's on the right bus. It'll have the bus number on it. It'll help also our school staff at dismissal time knowing which kids are going to be on what bus and what line. So this is a great thing. It's a lot of work. It's something we haven't done in Haverhill before. So it's another change, another wrench in the system, but we are working through it quite well right now.
That's great. And I know last week, or geez, I guess it was earlier this week, I'm losing track of time. We were looking at alternate drops for students that might have consistent alternate drops at a daycare center or that sort of information. And I know that there was some outreach from the transportation department around that. Has that been concluded yet? Or should people who might be attending the Y or the Boys and Girls Club, should they be notifying anyone at this point?
Well, I think we've reached out to the Y, the Boys and Girls Club, some of the other programs around the city, and asked them for their student rosters, kids who have signed up for their programs, so that we can try and make accommodations for those families. Because we do know that if your child's going to a daycare center after school, that typically means there's not an adult home to watch these children. So we are, especially in the younger grades, we're really trying to get those rosters. So we are working with our partners. So I would recommend that if families are planning on using those programs, they need to sign up for those programs with those programs, whether it be the Y or the Boys and Girls Club or some of the other programs around the city. The families really need to reach out and make sure that their child is signed up, and the program is going to give us a roster of the kids.
Wonderful. That's great. Thank you for clarifying that. I will just say, I know parents have been asking, or we've been hearing questions about what to do if they've changed an address or they need to update any kind of information. And that's all at the Burnham Registration Center. That's where people would go to register, and they can register online, correct, at this point? Change address online?
Yeah, I think there's some documentation we need to change addresses, but yes, everything is handled at our Burnham Registration Center, and that is on Fountain Street in Haverhill. I would really suggest that you call in advance and set an appointment, because we do have limited spaces over there for visitors. So if you have an appointment, you'll probably be much better to be serviced. And quite honestly, if you call, they might be able to answer your questions over the phone and make sure that you're actually bringing the information you need, so you don't have to make a second trip over.
Yeah, really good advice. And also on their website, there is a place to upload documents and information for folks that can't get in or would just prefer to do it online. Let's see, what other questions? Oh, some questions. Oh, during the HVAC portion, I meant to just sort of clarify for people, our classroom sizes are such that we do have at least 6 feet social distancing in all our classrooms between all our students. Obviously, we know that kids will be wearing masks across the school day, and they do need to wear their masks. There will be mask breaks built into the day, but they do need to wear masks across the day. Lots of hand sanitizing stations, lots of soap and water, bathrooms being cleaned frequently and on consistent schedules. So a lot of work has been done there. See, is there anything else that we can think of that we think we need to share with families, Mike?
I'm sure there is, but the list is long, and so much going on with it. So I'm sure we're missing something. But as we get information, we send it out. We've been very, very open with our information, I think, and to some people's, wish we could get them more information. Everything we have, I think we're getting out to families as quickly as we can.
Absolutely. And I just did realize one thing, and I'm going to look at the calendar so I get the right dates. So school starts remotely. Remote learning starts on September 16th. For those parents with kindergarten students, September, that are not remote, that kids that will be in the hybrid model, 16, 17, and 18 of September will be kindergarten screening days, and they'll be scheduled by their principal. They'll be contacted by the school for an appointment for those days. The Remote Learning Academy is having remote kindergarten screenings, and you'll be contacted by Jen Rivera for that. Beginning of next week, you'll be finding out information about who the teachers are, that sort of information in both the in-person learning and the remote learning. Let's see, on the 14th, we're going to be beginning the week of the 14th with all students attending school 1 day a week, and that will continue for the 14th and the 21st. So if you are in, oh, nope, I'm wrong. Even looking at my calendar, I'm wrong. That's beginning the week of the 21st and the 28th. Students will come 1 day per week. So if you're in cohort A, that would either be a Monday or a Tuesday. And if you're in cohort B, that would either be a Thursday or Friday. You'll be contacted by your school which day to attend in person. You'll have remote learning the other days. And that in-person time will just be a very small group of kids within their classroom getting accustomed to sort of the new expectations of schools, being informed about the safety procedures, sanitation procedures across the schools, information about mask wearing, just sort of small group check-ins with their teachers. So we just wanted to start really small with groups of kids to reintroduce them to school. And then October 5th, we'll begin with the 2-day-a-week hybrid model. And hopefully, the community will stay kind of where we are or even improve in terms of the rate of COVID in the community. And we'll be able to continue with school and have more students come into school as the year progresses. But that's certainly something that we're monitoring very closely with our medical team and with a team of people across the school district to look at what the health status is of the community, because we know we're making plans, but those plans could change at any given time based on what's going on beyond Haverhill and beyond our schools with people's health. So I think that's it for me, Mike, and I thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. You've been doing so much work in so many different areas. You said I became an HVAC expert. I think we're both there, and you're becoming an expert in many things that you never thought you'd need to be. So, great leadership from our superintendent, and appreciate all that she does for us.
Yeah, I can assure you they never taught us this in grad school. So
No, I'm sure not.
So thank you, and we'll be in touch again soon.
Can't wait for the next video. Hopefully there'll be smiling kids' faces in all the classrooms.
Let's hope. I'm very excited to be able to introduce to folks who haven't met her yet, Deb Ivanez, our new Director of Special Education. I think people may know that Pam McDonald, our previous director, is just finishing up her time here before she moves to a position as Assistant Superintendent in Malden Public Schools. But we're very lucky to have Deb Ivanez, who's been here for several years and working closely with Pam to just sort of be able to pick up the reins and move forward. Good morning, Deb.
Good morning, Margaret. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited. I know you've been doing a lot of work for several months planning back to school for our students with disabilities. And I was hoping that you could just give parents a little information about what does that look like at this point? When should they expect to hear about schedules and the starting of school and all that sort of information?
Sure. So a letter went out via email, and for those that don't have email, it would have been mailed, just kind of explaining what the services, I'm sorry, what the cohorts are. So anybody who is in a cohort A or B, and then anybody who is in a cohort C. The cohort C are the more significant students who will be coming in 4 days a week. So we will be contacting parents individually by the education team facilitator and or the liaison from the individual buildings. The schedules, I'm hoping, are being finalized today. And just as the special education teachers push in to regular education classes, that'll also happen, and with the special ed teachers.
So they'll push in during remote learning to the screen time with the teacher as well as in person. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct, yes. Mm-hmm.
Also, I know some parents, I know you mentioned there's the cohort where kids come 4 days a week, and I know that's attractive to a lot of people, and people are concerned about their children's progress, obviously, if they're on IEPs. And I know we're trying to start slow, is that right? So we're starting with the kids who are in sort of special education classrooms 4 days a week to begin with, and then seeing how things go before we add more time to other students? Is that?
Yes, that is correct. So we are going by the Department of Education guidelines in having the most students at risk come in the 4 days a week. I have fielded a lot of calls from parents and I appreciate that. Wondering what the difference is between the 4 days versus the 2 days. So as we roll things out slowly and bring kids back in slowly, we will be hopefully trying to bring in more kids, more days.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there anything else that you think people need to know specifically? I know you said you've called people. There's a letter been going out. I think schools should be contacting the ETFs in the building, should be contacting families shortly, probably the beginning of next week, with more information. And each family will get an individualized learning plan like they did in the fall. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes. So each family with a student on an IEP will receive a call to discuss the remote learning plan. And it's just a temporary fix while we're in the situation that we're in. It doesn't replace the IEP, and we will do our best to deliver all IEP services.
Great. So basically, they're just going to have a call, and then there'll be something in writing that discuss what given the time of COVID and the hybrid learning, what the IEP services look like now, and we'll be documenting that with each individual family.
Yes, and we'll be doing that whether they're in hybrid or the Remote Learning Academy.
Great. That's wonderful. I think that's it for special education in a nutshell. I'm sure you'll be doing some PAC meetings and some information strictly for families of kids with disabilities moving forward, but did want to give you just a few minutes to start.
Sure. I was speaking with the parent liaison for the CPAC, and we will be getting some things out and setting up our monthly meetings just like we have in the past, but obviously they will be virtual.
That's excellent. That's excellent. We'll try to get that going as soon as possible because I know people are anxious. So I appreciate it. I thank you for just jumping in and joining us this morning on short notice. Much appreciated.
Oh, no problem. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any additional questions.
That's great, Deb. I appreciate you being so available.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I'd like to offer a warm welcome back to the director of the Remote Learning Academy, Jen Rivera. Jen, I hope you're doing well. I know you're busy.
Yes, but it's exciting.
It is exciting. It is exciting. A lot of work to be done. And I hear that you have put up a website for families of students in the Remote Learning Academy. I know they have a lot of questions, and I think you have some samples up there. Can you tell us a little bit about the website?
Sure. The website is located right on the Haverhill Public Schools page, and it's listed as one of the schools. If you go to the drop-down menu, it's the last school listed. And on that website, you will find weekly updates, the school calendar on Google. So if you can click on each event and add it to your own calendar if you'd like. There are some family resources. There are links to some common resources that people typically ask about. And then there's also sample schedules of what your child's day may look like during remote learning. In addition to that, there's also some suggested school supplies that are a good idea to have at home to help your child learn.
That's great, Jen. Thank you very much. And I know that we'll also be providing, if there's anything specialized that your student's going to need for learning, we'll be providing that as well to the students.
Yes, I did just want to add that we have ordered for the Remote Academy students, we've ordered whiteboards for individual whiteboards for students to be able to use, and we will also be ordering headphones for students to be able to use.
That's great. That's great. I know all the schools, Remote Learning Academy included, have some high need supplies that they've ordered to make sure that kids can have individual supplies. So thank you for sharing with us what you've purchased thus far. Could you also kind of some basics on the day? Is it a full school day? And if so, is it all sort of homework and offline, or are there live times, or what does it look like?
Sure. So we've built our schedule. So it's going to look a little different in the spring just because of DESE expectations. So it is expected that remote learning will be a full school day. But as educators, of course, we want to break that up into a balance of synchronous lessons, which are our live lessons that are held on Google Meets. And we have that opportunity as a class to work as a community to learn and grow. But then we also have what's called asynchronous lessons. And those are the lessons where you are learning at your own pace. So this is where there's a little bit of flexibility for families in when they want this work to get done, but we've provided a sample schedule for those families that would like that structure during the school day. Asynchronous times can also be those times where teachers can pull for some small groups. So for example, if I was teaching a lesson on division and there were just a few students that needed a little extra practice, I might reach out to those students, put a little message in Google Classroom or in Google Meet, like, okay, I'd like to meet with these students at these times, and we would come back and have that opportunity to do that. So asynchronous is where there's that flexibility and those times are available, but then there's some blocked times for synchronous times when the whole class can meet and learn together as a community.
Awesome, thank you. And I know people are also curious. I think we are all able to better picture what online learning looks like with older kids, even, the middle schoolers and the upper elementary. But I think people are really struggling with, what does that look like for my kindergartner or my first grader? And I think admittedly that's a challenge, but could you share with us your thoughts?
Sure. So again, and I'm basing a lot of this work too on what we did over the summer, where we really focused on synchronous lessons, and we had an optional remote learning academy where students attended the lessons. And particularly in grades K to 2, we find that having our lessons structured with Google Slides helps students, families, and be able to navigate. But also during our Google Meet lessons, they are very interactive. So for example, if we're doing a lesson and we're looking at the letter B, one of the things that you might say is, okay, right now I want everyone, I'd like everyone to get up, go look around your house and find something that starts with the letter B. So some students might come back with a ball, or some students might come back with a block. And just really giving opportunities for kids to be as interactive as possible, and giving them an opportunity to learn and grow, because we know that this is not ideal. We know that we would much rather have everybody in school, but this is one way that we can help kids learn and grow, and we are doing our best with trying to figure out ways to make it as interactive as possible to help the kids learn and grow. And what we did see from our summer remote learning academy, we did see a community being developed over our 5 weeks of lessons. We saw community and we saw kids learning, which is what we want. So we know that it's not perfect, but we are getting it done. And I think that's the goal right now. So
that's wonderful. Thank you. And then just briefly, lunch, movement breaks, snacks, I assume that's all included in your schedule?
Absolutely. So there's a morning recess schedule just to get out and burn some energy. So that schedule's built in. And then the schedule right now for both elementary and middle school, they have lunch it was able to work out that they have lunch at the same time. So for families that have kids at different grade levels, everybody can kind of have lunch at the same time if they'd like that, or go outside and play. So they have that opportunity built in. So we have built that in, and again, we're doing our best to make this work for every family. And any suggestions or things on making it better, please reach out to me, and we will do our best to help everyone help their children learn and grow during this time.
Thanks, Jen. That's awesome. I know you're really building something from scratch, and it's exciting. It's also very overwhelming. And, I appreciate all the work that you've put in thus far. I know you've been really open to parents, and I know you've been making lots of calls and just been really busy. So thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That was a lot of information. I hope it was helpful. I'm sure that it probably generated some new questions for people out there. So if you do have questions, feel free to email our Reopen 2020 email. If it's a general question, your principals are back in your buildings, your schools are open. So I encourage you to call the schools and talk to the secretaries there, or the principals, or the school adjustment counselors, or the nurses if you have specific questions about your school, because every school is a little bit different, and even grade by grade things are different. So I think it's important to get the information closest to your child as possible. As I said, our teachers are back in the buildings today, so we're back full staffed, and hopefully can get all your questions answered. And if we can't answer it, at least research it. We think we've thought of every question at this point, but every day is a new adventure. So I thank everyone out there for your time and your patience with us, and we'll continue to update you weekly. So have a wonderful weekend.